Allah. Surah Kausar.
إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Beautiful. Alhamdulillah.
فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر
MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. صدق الله العظيم.
MashaAllah. Can I invite Brother Shabazz from Ashton to recite a few...
This is not. Surah Kausar is recitation of Holy Quran and it includes Naat of Holy Prophet.
Jesus.
We will read Nasheed inshallah in the evening. We can start.
Yes.
And they will give their presentation about Minhaj-ul-Quran, Manchester in the evening, before our Hadra session. Inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. How is it, Sheikh? MashaAllah. Give my salams to your dad, Sheikh sir. Do you allow me to have a cup of tea? I couldn't have lunch and I don't take breakfast. This is my practice. I just have my lunch and that is missed today. So no breakfast, no lunch. So I was feeling weak. So I told them when I come back from my lecture, then we will heat it up and I will try to eat something. So now I am helping my body through a cup of tea so that I am able to do some lectures. My head was hurting extremely, clapping for this decision. I definitely love my sons, but I am always pro-daughters. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Bismillah. Do you have that pointer, the stick? The pointer, soti. Where would the verses come? I have to go there?
Both of them is lower.
Which that one is lower? Alhamdulillah. I think you didn't have the soti with them. The pointer bhula hai. Bismillah. Did all of you visit the Norwegian gallery exhibition?
Which one is it?
You have also prepared these kind of things. This was a very noble idea which has been introduced by our Norwegian sons and daughters. ये उठा लें बेटे नहीं बेटे बाद में जब मुझे फील होगा मैं आपको फिर इशारा करूंगा फिर एक कप और दे देना नहमदुहु वनुसल्ली वनुसल्लिमु अला सय्यदिना व मौलाना मुहम्मदिन रसूलिहिन नबिय्यिल अमीनिल मकीनिल हनीनिल करीमिर रऊफिर रहीम अम्मा बाद बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम My very dear sons and daughters, and our members of our youth league, brothers and sisters, and all other participants of Al-Hidayah Camp 2017, and respected scholars, teachers, and preachers of Islam. Alhamdulillah Ta'ala. Yesterday, by the grace and tawfiq of Almighty Allah, we discussed some fundamental ideas contained in the narrative of terrorist and extremist organizations, along with their counter-narrative. We discussed primarily two basic concepts. One subject related to Khilafah, and the other particularly related to ISIS, their claim, their reality, truth about them, and prophecies of the Holy Messenger, peace be upon him, about them. Today we are moving forward. Our mode of discussion would be the same. I will take some other important aspects which are being propagated or which have been propagated over years and years by the extremists, by the terrorists, and ultimately certain concepts, combination of certain concepts have become their narrative, which they are selling out, and through which they are trying to influence our youth. So, Some people deep juristic understanding, lack of deep juristic understanding, lack of accurate appreciation of Quranic teachings, lack of study, deep study of the prophetic traditions. They are either influenced by their wrong and misguiding ideology, or they talk and speak in the same way just as a style, to show as if they are the leaders of Muslim community and they are torch bearers of the protection of interests of Muslim Ummah, and they are brave enough to stand up against the foreign aggressions. It has become a style. And our younger generations and common people, since they don't know the difference between the right and wrong, so they get influenced or they get confused. And they think, as I mentioned yesterday, as if we are apologetic. So I wanted to rebuild your confidence, to restore your confidence, to reinforce your confidence that you are on the right path. Our thinking is absolutely and positively and categorically based on prophetic teachings. Saying you are apologetic, you are this, and these are just political, psychological words. This is a political way of maligning somebody or just confusing somebody. These are political. When they don't find any Quranic evidence, when those people don't find any hadithic and classical argument and evidence, neither from the text of Quran, nor from the text of the Sunnah of Holy Prophet, nor from text of the books of Islamic jurisprudence and Islamic law. When they don't get any support from any source of Islamic knowledge, then they use the political way of attacking your mindset to confuse you. First of all, whenever anybody talks about these things, you have to ask. Don't say, we are apologetic and we are not standing up against so and so. No, just come up with your evidence. Whatever you are doing, killing the Muslims and non-Muslims indiscriminately, and your killing activity, mass killing, you are naming it as jihad. But you are performing this activity in two forms. Mostly in Muslim lands, wherever the terrorist organizations are operating. There are Muslim lands where these organizations are based on. So you are killing the Muslims. In what sense you are going to declare it and justify it as jihad? You are naming it as jihad. But you are performing this activity in two forms. Mostly in Muslim lands, wherever the terrorist organizations are operating. There are Muslim lands where these organizations are based on. So you are killing the Muslims in Muslim lands. In what sense you are going to declare it and justify it as jihad? Killing Muslims in Muslim lands, is it jihad? And the second mode which you are adopting, some of these terrorist people, In Western countries, as you have seen in UK, in France, in Barcelona, in Germany, in some other countries, in Manchester, different cities. So you are killing in different ways. You are killing the non-Muslim civilian populations of these countries, those who are absolutely non-combatants. This is not a battlefield. These are not warriors. These are not armed forces one-to-one fighting with each other. And these civilian people are non-combatants, which include old people, feeble old people, disabled people, ill people, women, children, and different segments of the society. Those who personally have nothing to do with fightings. They are just busy in their day-to-day life. So according to Sharia, these non-combatants, Sharia has never allowed to kill a single person in any condition. Killing a non-combatant, even if he is a non-Muslim, then these countries are not Darul Harb, strictly speaking in the terms of law. These are not abode of war. If I get time, then I will take this aspect also, what is the definition of abode of war. But keep in your mind, any society ruled by non-Muslims, where non-Muslim law is enforced, or a secular society or government, where the Muslims are allowed to practice their deen. Jummah is allowed there. Salatul Eid is allowed. You can build your mosques, you can pray, you can fast, you can take your delegates for Hajj and Umrah, you can pay your zakah, you can establish your Islamic schools, you can practice your deen in your private and in your social manner. You have freedoms. So keep in your mind, any country ruled by non-Muslims or any non-Muslims majority country where Muslims are safe and secure and they are allowed to practice their deen, that has never been declared to be Darul Harb. Neither in Hanafite law, nor in Maliki law, nor in Shafi'i, nor in Hanbali. That is not Darul Harb. That is not abode of war. That is abode of peace. That is abode of peace. And some of the Hanafite jurists have gone up to the extent that even you can declare these lands as abode of Islam also. Because Imam Azam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi says, and this is mentioned by Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Kasani in Badai-us-Sanai, Imam Hasfkafi and Imam Fathul-Qadir, Imam Ibn Hammam, all jurists. They quote Imam Abu Hanifa says that the word Darul Islam is not used because Islamic laws are enforced there. The word Darul Islam, this term is not used because of faith. So whether this is Muslim faith or this is non-Muslim faith, it has no concern with using of this term Darul Islam. Imam Azam Abu Hanifa says any country which provides peace and security to its residents, Muslim and non-Muslim, that is Darul Islam. Whether Islamic faith and Islamic laws are enforced or not, this is irrelevant. Imam Abu Hanifa says the cause of naming the certain country as Darul Islam is not because of faith, it is because of silm, because of peace and security is granted to the citizens. So they have gone up to this extent. But coming down, least minimum is these are lands of peace. You are enjoying your freedoms, your benefits, your rights. You are practicing your religion. So not a single jurist has declared in the whole history of Islamic law and jurisprudence these kind of lands as abode of war. And you are living here and you are killing the non-Muslims or citizens of your country, those who are non-combatants. How does this activity falls under the caption of jihad? You have to put these kind of questions. When they don't find any argument or any evidence in support of their ideology or their narrative, then they jump on towards political issues. Tell them, let us discuss the political issues later. First of all, come towards Quran. Do you find any evidence and support for your ideology from Quran? Yes, they can quote only some verses, ayatul qital, and misinterpret. I will come to this particular subject too, today's session. Other than this, which are misinterpreted, misunderstood, they take it out of context. They don't know what does these ayat mean. I will explain today. Other than that, they have no evidence, neither in Quran, nor in Sunnah, nor in books of fiqh, which can support their ideology or their narrative. Since they know they are doing all this nonsense without any Quranic evidence and Islamic evidence, that's why he jumped towards political issues. So I took all these sessions just with this objective, that your confidence is restored and you become clear, absolute clarity. You should gain absolute clarity, and you would be able to propagate your ideology and confront them. So you should be equipped with this counter narrative. Today I am starting from the next point of their narrative and our counter narrative. For example, they don't accept the permissibility of separate and sovereign national states. They say we have to establish a global caliphate, Khalifa, which I told there is no evidence in Quran and Sunnah on this subject. And none of the jurists have adopted this view in any school of law. So the question is whether separate governments, national sovereign states, in the form of presidential form of government, or parliamentary form of government, or monarchical forms, or all these are acceptable according to Islam? Or is there any specific form of the government which can be declared to be caliphate? As I explained yesterday, that caliphate is not a specific form of the government. It is just a title which is given to any government which keeps on continuous transferring of power from people to people. All these words, so for not only Khalifa, Al-Malik, Al-Amir, As-Sultan, Al-Hakim, Ulil Amr, all these words have been used in Quran, and every single word just signifies the government. Just formation of government. So that the societies are organized and the people should not live like hodgepodge of individuals or aggregate of individuals. They should live in an organized society, fulfilling the requirements and conditions of being a state. It can be any form. If it is a presidential form of government, it is Islamic. I mean Islamic, it is not anti-Islamic. If there is parliamentary system of government, again it is not anti-Islam. There is no injunction prohibiting it. If there is a unitary form of government, no prohibition. If it is federal form of government, no prohibition. If there is confederation, there is no prohibition. If there is a monarchical, constitutional monarchical rule, there is no problem. All these things are related to your own socio-political environments and your own preferences. your own constitutional structures. And any name can be given. As I mentioned, all names are permissible. There is only one verse in Holy Quran which gives us fundamental guidance or gives us basic guideline towards the nature or form of Islamic government. You can give it any name. I said, you can give it name of Khilafah, you can give it name of Al-Jamhuriyah, you can give it name of Al-Mamluka, you can give it name of United Kingdom, Al-Sultana, any name you can give. There is no problem. The only single verse which gives us some basic guidance, and there are two verses together, which gives us basic guidance regarding the formation of the government, nature of the government, and basic characteristics of the government. And when I read this verse, and I will teach you today, you will find that the whole concept is democratic government, concept of democratic government. I wrote a booklet on this subject in early 80s, 35 years before today. And that is published. This is my booklet. Its name is Quranic Basis of Constitutional Theory. Quranic Basis of Constitutional Theory. I wrote it in 1982 or 1983, around 35 years before. But it was published in 1985. Its first publication year is 1985. It is written on the book. So I will take some important features from this verse. And I have mentioned so that you can, if you want to study, you can study this. So I have discussed in this book what is a state, what is an Islamic state, you can name anything. What is a constitution, Islamic constitution, constitutional law, and these kind of things. So this is the verse of Surah An-Nisa. Surah number is 4 and verse number is 58. And the next verse is verse number 59. We will study two verses briefly, then we will go to the next topic. It is ordained in Holy Quran, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Inna Allaha ya'murukum an tu'addul amanati ila ahliha. Wa iza hakamtum bayna an-nasi an tahkumu bil adl. Inna Allaha ni'imma ya'izukum bih. Inna Allaha kana samiyan basira. This verse was revealed at the time of victory of Mecca. And the next verse was revealed 1 year later. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu ati'u Allah wa ati'u rasula wa ulil amri minkum. Fa in tanaza'tum fi shay'in farudduhu ila Allah wa rasul. So this verse number 59 was revealed in 18th of Hijrah, 1 year later. And that was about 7-6 months later. I would like to explain you certain points. Where is British? Where do you have? No, you keep sitting. कोई बात. आप बैठ जाएं बेटे, it would be difficult for you. I am just recalling my old days when I used to teach in university as university professor. Very, very old times, little bit thing. The first thing you have to concentrate on is Inna Allaha ya'murukum. This one. This ya'murukum. The word kum. Look at its phrasal construct. Kum. This is not an address to believers, just Ahl Iman. No. Kum is a common for all mankind. Almighty Allah commands you an tu'addul amanat, to render the trusts which you possess. Render the trusts which you possess ila ahliha, to those who are worthy of them, to those who deserve, to those who are capable to deal with these trusts. Oh, it is written down. Render the trust to those who are worthy of them. So this first verse, it means this is a commandment of Almighty God, and there is no discrimination between Muslims and non-Muslims, and no discrimination of sex, male and female. Almighty Allah commands you. What does it mean? O people, you are in possession of some trusts. Some trusts have been vested, authorities have been vested in you, and you are in possession of those trusts. Now we will try to understand what does it mean. But Allah says, those trusts which you possess primarily, now you are commanded by Almighty God to render those trusts to those people who deserve them, who are worthy of them. Ya'murukum, these are the people of a society, all adults and saints, male and female, Muslim and non-Muslim, all adults and sane. They are being commanded by Almighty God because they are in possession of some trusts. For example, there is a society consisting of, you say, 100 million adult and sane people, 50 million adult and sane people, 10 million adult and sane people. They are residing in a society. And Quran says, all of you, all those who are adult and sane, they are in possession of trust. Now the command is that now you are being ordered to render these trusts to some other people, those who would be chosen amongst you. You will choose some people to hold the trusts and to regulate the affairs of the society, of the government, of the state for you, on your behalf. Government by the people, for the people, and of the people. Government of the people, by the people, for the people. This whole concept is present here in this Quranic verse. That the people living in a society, they are not originally in the form of a state. They were just aggregate of individuals, thousands and millions of people living together. Now they want to regulate their affairs. And individuals cannot run the government, individual cannot establish the courts, individual cannot do, this is the theory of social contract. So they need somebody to regulate their affairs. They need someone to organize their matters. They need someone to look after their rights and their obligations. They need someone to govern them. So Almighty Allah is saying, O people, in fact, you are the owner of these trusts. And now you are being commanded, render these trusts to those who are worthy of them, who are capable to run your affairs honestly and justly. Ila ahliha. This here lies As-Sadiq Al-Amin. Here lies the decision of the Supreme Court of Pakistan. आगे चलो बेटे इला अहलिहा. Now the next thing is very important. We have to see the nature of this commandment. The word has been used, ya'murukum. Almighty Allah commands you, it means this is a mandatory commandment. This is not an instruction. This is not just an advice. It is not just a suggestion. It is not our or your discretion whether we can do it or we can't. No. This is a mandatory commandment. Ya'murukum, commands you. So you have no other option but to act upon this commandment. So to establish a government by the people, establishment of the government by the people through their free choice and free consent, and appointing some people by their free choice in order to regulate the affairs of the society and their rights and obligations. This is a mandatory commandment. So you cannot take over by power like ISIS and other people. So by this order, all dictatorial rules have been declared to be un-Islamic. All despotic rules have been declared to be un-Islamic. All undemocratic rules have been declared to be un-Islamic. Because this is a mandatory commandment of Almighty God. You have to abide by it. So then, next point which I want to mention here, that I have already told, every citizen is originally a trustee. If you don't possess a trust, if you are not in a possession of a trust, how can someone ask you that render this trust to someone who is worthy of that? You will say, I am not possessing this trust. I don't have anything in my mind. I don't have any authority. So I don't have any trust. I am not the possessor of trust. How should I render this trust to anybody else? Allah says, you are the possessor of the trusts. So the main authority lies with the people. This is Khilafah. This is Al-Hukuma. This is Islamic government. This is Islamic state. It is not permissible you take over the power through gun. The people have to choose. Antu'addul amanat. Then again the word al-amanat. Isko kare bete? Al-amanat. No, al-amanat. Single is amana. Its plural is amanat. Amana is trust. Amanat, trusts. And you see here, there is a word prepositing the prefix al here. A prefix al has been preposited here. The word alif and lam has been fixed on amanat. So according to Arabic grammar rules, when the word is plural, noun is plural, and it is used with alif lam al amanat, it means that it is related to, it includes all kinds and forms are included in its orbit. No single kind and form is excluded from al-amana. So it applies to your private amana trusts, it applies to your family amana, it applies to your financial amana, it applies to your social economic amana, it applies to your political authority, it applies to your right to vote, it applies to your appointment of the public offices, it applies to your appointment and selection and choosing the state authorities. Al-amana means every single kind and form and sort of amana. All authorities are included in this world. So this right to vote and choose your rulers is a fundamental and unrepealable right because of ya'murukum an tu'addul amanat. This is a fundamental right and this is unrepealable, unchangeable, unsuspendable. This is a mandatory constitutional Quranic commandment. it means the Islamic government can be only if it is chosen by the people. The way of choosing may be different. There can be many ways of choosing. But you need the consent of the public. Then comes the next point. This government is a bilateral and conditioned contract. You see, here the word ya'murukum, Almighty Allah commands you. And here the word baynan nas. Here the voters are mentioned. The voters, common public. And then stated, Iza hakamtum baynan nas. And when you rule over the people, when you rule over the people and judge between the people, both meanings. Write them, bete ke again isko sahi kar le, or rule over the people and judge between the people. And iza hakamtum, jab tum hukumat karo logon ke darmiyan. When you rule over the people and when you judge between the people, it means that the first words of this verse are dealing with the formation of the government. When there was an address to the voters, Almighty Allah said, "Tu'addul amanat ila alayha." Render the trust to the people, those who are worthy of them. And then people are chosen by your vote. You chose the people. You appointed some people. You appointed the parliament, member parliaments. They chose your prime minister, and so and so. When the people were chosen and finally they were appointed at public offices, then the direction of Almighty Allah is changed. Then Allah is addressing to the rulers now. The original authority originally was vested in the people. Now they have rendered this authority to their chosen representatives. And when the chosen representatives have taken over the public office, they have become hakamtum, hakim. They have become the rulers. Now direction of Quranic commandment is changed. Now Quran says, "O people who have been chosen by the citizens of the state and who have been appointed at the public offices, now when you rule over these people who appointed and chose you, or when you sit on the chair and judge between them, an tahkumu bil adl, it is incumbent on you to administer justice between them." You have to rule with justice, social justice, economic justice, political justice, fulfilling the rights of human rights of people, fulfilling their needs, all basic rights for which they were chosen, for which the people rendered their authority to them. Now they have to administer everything according to justice. Give judgments or rule over them with justice. So this is a bilateral and conditional contract. It means if these people rule the government with justice, they deserve to be there. And if they don't rule with justice, they become corrupt. Then there should be an institution to decide that this is na'ahl. He is disqualified. He is incompetent. And he should go back to Raiwind. This is a bilateral contract. In the same way, the same rights when one government finishes its term, the same authority and the right goes back to the people. And a new date is announced, an election takes place, and they again choose their representatives to rule the country. After the finishing end of that term, the same authority goes back again to the people who are the basic addressees. And then the next Quranic verse related to ulil amri minkum, atiullah wa atiur rasul wa ulil amri minkum. Again, this indicates that whole this subject is dealing with the formation of the government and the duties of the rulers and the people. That you should be obedient to the rulers if they are obedient to Allah and Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ, if any dispute arises between you, means between the citizens and the rulers who were elected or who were chosen or who were appointed for performing certain duties. In tanazatum. So here lies the right of opposition. The right of opposition is based in the Quranic commandment. If you disagree, if you have a conflict between the citizen or members or the ruling class, fi shay'in farudduhu ila Allah wa Rasul, then you have to refer it to Allah and the Messenger. So there should be a judgment in the light of Quran and Sunnah. And the institution which gives the judgment in the light of Quran and Sunnah, in case of conflict or disagreement between the citizens or the government, or between other members or the government, that is known as judiciary. Because not the rulers, they have now become a party. In tanaza'atum, if any dispute arises between you, between the rulers and the citizens, so now they have become a party. After a dispute took place, after conflict arose between them, so when they have become a party because of this dispute, so who is going to decide the matter? Who is right and who is wrong? There should be a third party to decide the matter. And that third party, which should have supreme powers to interpret the constitution, this means ilallah wa Rasul is the constitution. Ruddu ilallah wa Rasul. Nobody can take the application to Almighty Allah. You can't find the court of Allah so that you put the petition to him and he will decide. Nobody to take it to Gumbad Khazra, to Madina Taiba petition. We have a dispute with our rulers. No. When he said ilallah wa Rasul, it means there should be a compilation or a book which should contain the injunctions of Quran and Sunnah very clearly. Ruddu, refer your things towards the guidance given by Allah and His Prophet. Refer your dispute and your point of view towards the book which contains the judgments of Quran and Sunnah. And that book is known as Constitution. So you have to interpret in the light of Constitution. Then Constitution is a book, does not speak. Who will decide in the light of Constitution? There should be another institution. And name of that institution is judiciary. So this is how administration, executive, judiciary, people, election, government, everything has been mentioned here. This independence and supremacy of judiciary, this is the system given by Almighty God, given by the Quran and the Sunnah. So this is not something which has been evolved in my life just now after the appearance of ISIS, or I have changed my ideas, or keeping in view all these circumstances, I have developed some thought. No, that's why I mentioned, I was quoting from my booklet which I wrote in 1982, when there was no ISIS and Khilafah and these silly things. It means there is a continuity of my thought in the light of Quran and Sunnah, without any deviation. So there is no question of being apologetic. We are on prophetic path. This is question of understanding. This is question of juristic knowledge. This is question of how to understand the Quranic injunctions and the prophetic injunctions. So this is what I wrote 35 years before, when all these things were not in existence. And same is my line of thinking which I always preach and teach the people. So this was a little bit analysis, exegetical analysis of Quran. Yes. Now, next question comes in the light of the narrative of extremist people. That is armed struggle against those regimes that are those regimes which are not implementing Sharia in its true letter and spirit, considered to be legal or illegal, and armed struggle against them is legal or illegal. I have already explained yesterday, and I have written in detail on this subject in my fatwa in 2010. You will find a full chapter, rather 2 chapters. It is absolutely prohibited. Armed struggle against any government, even it is not implementing Sharia. Even they are fasiq. Armed struggle is not permissible. Holy Prophet ﷺ has ordained us categorically. So you can read this detailed answer in the fatwa on terrorism. There are 2 chapters on this particular subject. So you have to, you are supposed to struggle against the unjust rulers, but in a peaceful way, in a democratic way, the way Constitution allows you. In a peaceful, democratic, and a proper political way. You are not allowed to take up arms and start fighting. This is rebellion, and I told you the rebel will have the death of Jahiliyyah. Then comes the subject. Their next point is they say that the whole matter is not related to ideology. This is not a theological matter, ideological matter. This is a matter of international aggressions of Western powers. They say that there is a war against Islam and the Muslim world by the West, like a crusade. And again they say that Western governments, their foreign policy is responsible for all these things. So the question arises, if for a moment, just for sake of discussion, first of all, let me clear, I believe, and we believe, I would say, that this is a combination of 2 factors. Ideology, theology, and wrong foreign policies. This is a combination of 2 things. No doubt about that. We are absolutely clear. We have no ambiguity in our minds. This is not a matter of just ideology. It is a matter of ideology, but it is a combination with the foreign policies. Foreign governments, their foreign policy, their dual standards, and all these things. They instigate them, they push them towards them, they influence them to go towards extreme. So the question is, just for sake of discussion, we keep the ideological matter on one side, which I have already discussed yesterday. Holy Prophet ﷺ told this is an ideological matter. All hadiths which I mentioned and quoted yesterday, these are related to ideological and theological background. This is mentality of Kharijites. This is a Kharijite mindset. And Holy Prophet ﷺ said they will keep on emerging from time to time. And the first Kharijite sect emerged in the time of Sayyidina Ali. At that time, was any foreign policy influencing them? The Khawarij, they were youngsters, youth, part of the army, of military of Sayyidina Ali, fighting with other faction. But Sayyidina Ali radiyallahu ta'ala anhu finally found a way of reconciliation to sort out the matter peacefully instead of fighting and killing the people. So he chose the way of peace and security and to settle the matter with peaceful reconciliation, peaceful settlement of dispute, he chose this path. And some of the youth, the youngsters from his army, they rebelled against him. It was in the battle of Siffin. They rebelled and they took the Holy Quran in their hands and they said, Inil hukmu illa lillah. We don't accept reconciliation. We don't accept peaceful settlement. We don't accept any arbitration. We will fight. We will kill them till our last moment. So here this dispute arose. And they left Sayyidina Ali's army. They gathered at a place, its name is Al-Harura, and from there the name Khawarij was given. And Holy Prophet ﷺ in more than 100 ahadith mentioned about Khawarij. So was there any foreign policy influencing them at that time? This was a mindset. And it started even before that time. In the last days of the caliphate of Sayyidina Usman, the government of Sayyidina Usman, they took up the arms and fought against Sayyidina Usman. But he did not react in his defense because of the sanctuary of Medina Tayyibah. So he was martyred. So in fact, this mindset of Khawarij started from the last days of Sayyidina Usman. Then at second stage, they stood up against Sayyidina Ali. And they said, we want the murderers of Usman. And we want to take revenge from them. We want to kill them with our own hands, which Sayyidina Ali didn't accept. He didn't accept their demands. So they went against Sayyidina Ali. And the third stage was Jang Siffin, Battle of Siffin, where Sayyidina Ali adopted a peaceful settlement of dispute and they left his army and they became Khawarij. At that time, proper title of Khawarij, Kharijites was given to them. But Holy Prophet ﷺ, as his prophecy, had already mentioned their name. In Bukhari and Muslim, you must have read in my fatwa. Have you read it or not? Kharijite philosophy. So, was there any foreign policy matter influencing them or pushing them towards armed struggle? No, this was a mindset which Holy Prophet ﷺ said. And then he said, people with this mindset will keep on emerging from time to time in different centuries, in different areas, till Antichrist appears. So this is how we say this is a matter of ideology. This is a theological, ideological matter. This is a matter of mindset. We have to be very clear because Holy Prophet ﷺ said this. Secondly, just for sake of argument, for sake of discussion, we may accept the only factor responsible for whole this problem is the foreign Western government's policies. If this is the fact, just for sake of discussion, the question arises that if the foreign policy has a major role behind this violent extremism, and they say ideology has no primary responsibility in this thing. So the question would be that even then, whatever these people are doing, is this allowed? I told you, killing Muslims in Muslim lands and killing non-Muslims, non-combatants, peaceful civilian population in non-Muslim lands. Only two things. Where does jihad come up? Even if it is the foreign policy, who allowed you to kill the non-combatants and civilian population, Muslims and non-Muslims in different lands? This is the question. Who are you? You are not the state. You are not the authority. You are not Quran. You are not the Sunnah of Holy Prophet. Who are you? The Meccan foreign policy was also torturing foreign policy against Muslims. when Holy Prophet ﷺ was, after migration, was settled in Medina for 10 years. And those who were left there, and they didn't migrate for certain reasons to Medina, and they were still there. They couldn't migrate to Medina. They were always under torture. And I would say foreign policy of Meccan, pagans of Mecca, their foreign policy. They were enforcing war on Medina every year. This was their foreign policy. They were enforcing and imposing war on Medina in the form of Ghazwa al-Badr. They were enforcing war on Medina in the form of Ghazwa al-Uhud, Uhud, just on the borders of Medina. They imposed war on Medina third time in the form of war of trench. Every single year, Holy Prophet ﷺ had to face an imposition of the war of the pagan Arabs, the Meccans. This was their militant foreign policy. Aggression was always being committed. And the people living in Medina, in Mecca, were being tortured. They were being killed. They were always under aggression, under coercion. In spite of all this fact, Holy Prophet ﷺ spent 10 years. Did he allow the Muslims in Medina or sitting anywhere to form groups, to form associations, to form certain sects and attack on Meccan non-combatants as a revenge of wrong or aggressive foreign policy of Meccan rule or Meccan government? Did Holy Prophet revenge in this way? Did Holy Prophet? Did Sayyidina Abu Bakr did this way? Sayyidina Umar, Sayyidina Usman, Sayyidina Ali, all Khulafai Rashideen in their time and the Sahaba? Did Holy Prophet ask them, go and take revenge? They are attacking on us every year, and we are fighting war of defense. And we are losing our lives. This is their aggressive foreign policy. And our people who are living there, they are always constantly under torture. Is there any different situation than now? Any difference of situation? Rather, it was more aggressive. But in spite of this fact, Holy Prophet ﷺ did not allow his people individually or collectively to take up arms and attack on the civilians of Mecca, on non-combatants of Mecca. Even Holy Prophet ﷺ did not attack on them because of all these activities. He was always fighting the war of defense. Whether this was a protective defense war, whether it was a preemptive war of preemptive protective defense, war of protective defense, as Holy Prophet and Medians fought on the border of Medina. Protective defense. I have categorized the defense in 4 categories. Like Ghazwa Uhud and Khandak. All these were war of protective defense. Or these were war of preemptive defense. When he preempted that they, Meccans, were going to attack Medina, so instead of fighting on your own border or in your city, just go out and stop them from and fight on their land. This was Badr and Ghazwa Tabuk and Ghazwa Khaybar and Ghazwa Hunain. All these were war of preemptive defense. And whether these were war of retributive defense, or whether it was a war of repulsive defense. And retributive defense was the Fatah Makkah. I will explain you later, inshallah. So my point is that all wars which Holy Prophet ﷺ had fought in 10 years, they were wars of defense, but the nature of defense was different. But in the whole period of 10 years, he never allowed his people to attack on Mecca or attack on the civilian population or kill them as a revenge of their foreign policy or their aggressive policy or their violent policy. So if Holy Prophet ﷺ has not allowed his people to do that, Who has this authority to take up arms and do this now and create problems for the whole of Muslim Ummah? You kill one person, they in response kill your 10 persons. In any part of the world. So you have put the whole Ummah in danger. You have created an atmosphere of fear for the whole of Ummah. You have brought a very bad name to the whole of Deen of Islam and the people. You have created an atmosphere of war everywhere because of your criminal activities conducted by a few. So this is totally against the Sunnah and the conduct and behavior of Holy Prophets, against the policies adopted by Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So that's why I say they don't find any evidence on any root in the Sunnah of Holy Prophet and Quran. So again, for example, if you accept that this is a matter of the wrong foreign policies of the foreign countries, policies of the Western countries, so what would be the maximum juristic result if we take this suggestion, if we accept it, but the reason behind it is the foreign policy of the Western countries. That's why we are pushed towards this. So there is no evidence permissibility of being pushed toward this. Maximum outcome of this thing would be that a country who is enforcing wrong policies, maximum you can declare that country as Darul Harb, which is not. It is incorrect. I am just mentioning an extreme view just for sake of discussion. It is absolutely incorrect. Maximum which you can do according to Sharia, you can declare that country or that land as abode of war. Darul Harb, nothing beyond that. Still for Darul Harb, which I explained you in the beginning, that all these countries are not Darul Harb, because you are allowed to practice your deen and religion and build up the mosque and doing all things and rituals. The maximum viewpoint, the extreme viewpoint would be you will declare these countries as Darul Harb, abode of war. Still, if any country becomes a Darul Harb, an abode of war, still their civilian population cannot be attacked. This is the law of Islam. Even you declare that country because of its wrong foreign policy, because of its crusade, whatever you want to say, because of its attacking on different lands of Muslim Ummah, maximum thing which we can do according to Sharia, either we stick to Sharia or we leave the Sharia out. Either we exit from Sharia. Then don't mention the name of Quran and Sunnah or Sharia. If you are going to mention Islam and Quran and Sunnah of Holy Prophet and teachings and injunctions of Islam, then you have to abide by the laws given by Islam. So the final thing which you can go up to that extent is you will declare it abode of war. We accept if any country or some countries are abode of war, even then you are not allowed to kill a single citizen of that country. During wartime, you can't kill a single civilian and non-combatant even during wartime. I will give you some new juristic references which were not discussed at fatwa time, which I have not discussed during the in that fatwa on terrorism. But pani de dena. So now I am taking, for example, this supposition. We are supposing that some lands have become Darul Harb and abode of war. You can't go beyond this point. Even then, the non-Muslims have their rights, the civilians have their rights, non-combatants have their rights, and they cannot be infringed with. Now I will mention some of their rights, even in Darul Harb or in your own country. There are two possibilities. Either you are doing these things in your countries or in non-Muslim countries or in your own Muslim lands. Imam Haskafi says, even you destroy a Christian's wine, his alcohol, or his pork, you are legally and according to Sharia responsible to pay for it. This is Sharia. وَيَضْمَنُ الْمُسْلِمُ قِيمَةَ خَمْرِهِ وَخِنْزِيرِهِ إِذَا أَطْلَفَهُ. The Muslim who destroys the Christian's wine and pork is legally responsible to pay for it. And if this was owned by a Muslim, then not. Then you have not to pay, because it was haram for Muslim. He was not allowed to keep wine and pork. So if it is destroyed, no fine. But if these things were owned by a Christian or non-Muslim, since the injunctions of halal and haram are not imposed on them, so this is his property. So you have destroyed his property, you have to pay for it. This is Islam. Al-Haskafi in Ad-Durrul Mukhtar, Imam Shami in Raddul Muhtar, Imam Ibn Nujaym in Al-Bahrul Ra'iq, and Imam Ibn Hammam in Sharh Fath al-Qadir. All these authentic books of fiqh. Bismillah. Next, the rights of non-Muslims, whether they are living in your land or their land. One of them is even backbiting a non-Muslim is unlawful, just as backbiting a Muslim is unlawful. This is the Sharia. Imam Ibn Hammam has quoted this in Fathul Qadir. This is commentary on Al-Hidayah. It is related in Al-Hidayah, the most famous book of Hanafite jurisprudence, law. Imam Marghinani says in Al-Hidayah, Man qazafa kafiran biz-zina uzzira. See how just is Islam. Islam is. Anyone who falsely accuses a disbeliever of adultery, he is to be punished by the authorities. You can't accuse him just because he is a kafir. You can't attack on his honor. You can't attack on his right of respect. You can't attack on his property just because he is kafir. For everything there are rules, regulations, laws, commandments, do's and don'ts, acts of commissions, acts of omissions, limitations. You can't cross these limits. You have to follow the Islamic injunctions if you claim to be Muslims. And again in Ad-Durrul Mukhtar, it is stated, you can't curse a non-Muslim citizen. You will receive a punishment for that. Next, I would like to give you the question of, even if you declare these lands as abode of war, Darul Harb, then what would be the rights of the non-Muslim civilian population, non-combatants, whom you are always killing in different forms? First of all, I will quote from the Hanafi fiqh, then Maliki fiqh, then Shafi'i, then Hanbali, then Ibn Taymiyyah, so that you may understand that every school of Islamic law is unanimous on this point. Whatever I have said, whatever I have communicated and preached to the generations is nothing new, but the only problem, people don't read. They don't read. They have no knowledge. They have no understanding. I have just taken out the texts and things and statements and juristic judgments from the books, original authorities of Islamic law. Imam Marghinani, a great Imam of Fiqh al-Hanafi, he says, when a Muslim enters the abode of war as a merchant, he gets a visa, he immigrates, he becomes an immigrant, he gets a citizenship, he gets a temporary or permanent stay over there, as all these people doing here and killing the people through their buses and their car and bombs and all this. Imam Marghinani says, the Bab al-Musta'amin, if you enter, a Muslim enters in a non-Muslim land, and even that land is abode of war, and I already explained that these lands are not abode of war, these are abode of peace. You are allowed to practice your religion, that's it. This is the single principle. Every city you have your mosques, your Islamic schools, you practice the Islamic rituals like other people of other faiths. There are temples, there are churches, everything. So Aimma says even a Muslim enters an abode of war for his business and he gets a temporary stay or a permanent stay there. He says it is not lawful for him to steal anything from their from their citizens. It is not lawful to steal their wealth. It is not lawful to shed their blood. وَإِذَا دَخَلَ الْمُسْلِمُ دَارَ الْحَرْبِ تَاجِرًا فَلَا يَحِلُّ لَهُ أَنْ يَتَعَرَّضَ لِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ وَلَا مِنْ دِمَائِهِمْ. You can't steal their wealth, you can't shed their blood. That is because he have sought a guarantee of security through his visa, immigration, citizenship. You are getting a guarantee of security, permission of staying there with some conditions that you will abide by the law of the land. And you will remain peaceful. And you will remain obedient and loyal to the law. So this is a conditional contract by which you are getting a visa of entry or visa for a visitor visa or stay visa or immigration or a citizenship. So these words have been used. They say that you get this guarantee of security and this is a solemn promise that you will not commit offenses there. So to do these kind of things, that is Islamically considered to be a treachery. And treachery is haram. These are the words. This is ghadr and wal ghadru haramun. So this is ghadr, treachery and betrayal, and this is haram in the light, in the eyes of God and Prophet. This is Al-Hidayah Marghinani. In the same, Imam Badruddin Aini says the same. And he says all these acts while you are living in a non-Muslim state. Either you are a visitor or you are immigrant or you have become citizen through a process. So it means you are committed to a pledge. There is an agreement that you will abide by the law and you will not commit the crimes and unlawful things. And if you commit these kind of things, Holy Prophet said, they quote, يَكُونُ غَدْرًا وَالْغَدْرُ حَرَامٌ. This would be the betrayal and treachery, and that is haram. And Holy Prophet ﷺ said, any person who commits this kind of treachery with non-Muslims, these kind of treachery even with non-Muslims, Holy Prophet said, on the day of Qiyamah, يُنْصَبُ لَهُ لِوَاءٌ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَيُقَالُ هَذِهِ غَدْرَةُ فُلَانٌ. On the day of Qiyamah, the treacherous person will have a flag erected for him on the day of judgment, and they will say, he is the person who committed betrayal and treachery, and he will be punished in the day of judgment. The same has been mentioned by Sarakhsi in Mabsut. And Imam Sarakhsi says in Mabsut, even if you enter in the lands of non-Muslim lands and live there. لأنهم ما مكنوه من الدخول في دارهم بعد الاستئمان إلا بشرط. They have given you the visa to enter in their countries. They have given you immigration and right of staying in their country by this guarantee of security. Imam Marghinani is saying, and all Aimma, they are saying, إلا بشرط أن لا يتعرض لهم بشيء من ديارهم وأموالهم. With this condition, that you will not commit any criminal act against their property and against their lives, and you will not target them. If you do it, it would be considered treachery, and treachery is unlawful and haram in the Sharia of Islam. He said, Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar quoted that Holy Prophet said this. And then Imam Sarakhsi says in Al-Mabsut, he says, even if you are in a state of war, even if you are in a state of war, during war time, he said, you cannot kill any women during war. You cannot kill women, you cannot kill children. And the reason they said, فيه دليل على أنه لا يحل قتل الصغار منهم إذا كانوا لا يقاتلون, because they are non-combatants. This is the single reason. They say you can't kill. You can neither kill women nor children. It is impermissible to kill the women and children and young people. Why? Because they are non-combatants. They were not fighting with you. And Holy Prophet said, it's mentioned in Hadith, he forbade the killing of women and children and said, then he quotes Imam Sarakhsi in Mabsut, he quotes the word of Holy Prophet. He said that you are allowed, he said that they were, you can, if you are in the war, state of war, fighting one to one, you can kill the young people, the fighters, the warriors, but you can't kill their subordinates. And subordinate means, signify that their followers, the other citizens, those who follow them, they may be young people or they may be women folk. You can't kill them. And Holy Prophet said that it is mentioned in Abu Bakr's dictated commands also, that kill neither a feeble old man nor a young child, because they are not combatants. The same has been mentioned by Imam Kasani, Fil Bada' as-Sana'i. He said, it is impermissible to kill a disabling woman, to kill a woman, to kill a child, an elderly man, and someone suffering from disabling illness or paralysis, or a blind person, someone whose hands and feet are cut off, or a dim-witted person who is mentally challenged but not completely insane even, an insane people, or a monk praying or working in his cell, or a monastic person dwelling in the mountains who does not mix with other people, or anyone living monastically inside a dwelling or a church who shuts himself off from the society. Then he says, Imam Sarakhsi, as for an Imam Kasani, as for the proof of impermissibility of killing all these people, is the statement of Holy Prophet, do not kill a woman and do not kill young people. And he disapproved this, and he said, I do not see that she was one who was engaged in combat. Holy Prophet said, I do not see that she was combatant. Why was she slain? Holy Prophet said, why was she slain? Why was she slain? He forbade killing women and children because they were non-combatants. These are very clear injunctions of Islam and Quran. In the same manner, again, I will explain this later, but let me quote here. Some people say that all these kind of commandments were revealed by the ayatul sayf, by the verse of sword in Surah At-Tawbah. In Surah Tawbah. That's again wrong. I will, inshallah, discuss this matter today. Nothing was revealed. And a wrong title given to this holy verse, Ayatul Sayf, by the critics of Islam, the verse of sword. This was a very specific cancellation of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, because the Meccans himself, they had breached the treaty and restored the state of war. All other injunctions of Holy Quran were intact. Nothing was repealed. I will explain you later. And all these injunctions which come in the books of fiqh, they came after revelation of Surah Tawbah and Ayatul Sayf. And they have established the chapters on the peace treaties. Every book, Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, every book of fiqh have established the chapters on peace treaties. How they have made these chapters? If all these things were repealed by the Quran, then how can a jurist, an Islamic jurist, they can establish chapter on peace treaties? And very important thing which Imam Ibn al-Hammam has said, he says, Al-Muwada'ah, Al-Musalama, huwa jihadun ma'anan la suratan. He said very interesting thing. He said that a peace treaty is a type of jihad. In meaning, not in apparent form. They say, although it is not jihad in apparent form, but still it is jihad in its meaning. Because Almighty Allah says, and if the combatant or hostile disbelievers incline to peace and reconciliation, you should also incline to peace and put your trust in Almighty Allah. Since this is the compliance of the commandment of Almighty God, and the basic objective is being achieved, and that is the peace. So he says that this is also, in meaning, this is also a jihad. Concluding a peace treaty is also a form of jihad. Then look at the significance of peace and significance of security of human life, security of non-combatants, non-Muslims. Even they belong to the abode of war. They belong to abode of war. They are residents of abode of war. And they are non-Muslims. But being non-combatants, the protection of their life, their property and everything is so important. Just, I will mention some specific statements of the jurists. You can imagine their significance and priority of protection of their life. Because they are non-combatants. Doesn't matter if they belong to an abode of war. And their government is at war with you. Their army is fighting with Muslim armies. Governments and armies are on fighting terms, on war. And country is declared to be abode of war. Still every kind of protection is guaranteed to the civilian, those who are non-combatants. And Imam Marghinani says in Al-Hidayah, says when a free man or a free woman offers a guarantee of security to a non-Muslim who belongs to an abode of war, but he says if a person, male or female, or a group of people, they provide a guarantee to any kafir, any disbeliever, or their group living within a fortress, or a city full of non-Muslims and kuffar. If a Muslim, male or female, personally provides them with guarantee of security, he said, nobody is allowed to fight against them. Their guarantee of protection would be upheld. Because a single man privately said, I provide you guarantee of protection. I provide you protection. A single woman stood up A lady, a girl stood up from a Muslim society and said, one individual, I give you protection. So Islam says the world of a single person, male or female, would be upheld. And the Muslim army is not allowed to kill that person. And one single person can give the protection not only to one kafir, to the full jama'ah, to full village, or hundreds of people. One person can give them guarantee of protection, hundreds of people. Look at the significance. Why? The top priority has been given towards the protection of human life, whether Muslim or non-Muslim. This priority has been given. Then a few references from Fuqaha Malikiyya, the Maliki jurisprudence. They say that if a guarantee of security is granted by a slave, just imagine, the slave who, now there is no slavery now, but they are talking of the old days when there was slavery in existence. He said if a guarantee of security was provided to a non-Muslim belonging to an abode of war, but the protector, the guarantor of protection was not a free man, he was even a slave. And then Imam Malik says, even the guarantee provided by slave is valid during warfare. War was going on. And they were fighting against each other. And the person who was granted the security of life was a combatant. He was a combatant. It is happening during warfare. And during war he came to a slave, Muslim slave, and he said, I want to surrender. And his slave said, I give you guarantee of protection of your life. Imam Malik says, whether that slave gave the protection with the permission of his owner or without permission of his owner, in both cases his guarantee would be valid. Now the whole army of the Muslim state cannot touch the body of that person, because the slave will stand up and say, I have given him guarantee, I am his protector. So the Islamic jurisprudence says, any form, if a protection is given to the life of a man, maybe before that moment he was a combatant, but he came and sought protection of his life, and nobody gave him protection except a slave. That slave protection would all be honored. Would be honored. Then further Imam Malik says, I am quoting from Qazi Abu Muhammad Abdul Wahab al-Baghdadi al-Maliki. He was Imam in 422 Hijrah. In his book of Kitabul Jihad, they say even if some person came from abode of war, from Darul Harb, he came to your country, and he gave you your property, then he went back. All Muslim jurists say that it is incumbent on you to protect his property, which he left with you. Even he went back to Darul Harb, to abode of war. Now this is an amana, you have to protect his property. And whenever he demands, you are bound to return his property to him, even in Darul Harb. There is a hadith when Hazrat Hani came to Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the jurists have discussed this, all the Hanafis and Malikis and Shafis and Amris, all. They have quoted this hadith as the basic asl, the basic fundamental principle. They say the covenant of protection may be granted by the least of them. And it is quoted in the Prophet's hadith in Hani's matter. And this is reported by Humaydi on the authority of Ibn Uyayna, on the authority of Ibn Ajlan, on the authority of Sayyid al-Maqbari, on the authority of Abu Murrah, on authority of Hani, radiyallahu ta'ala anha. She says, the narration of that partition, the part of the narration is that she says that Hani, that I said to Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, I granted asylum, I granted security and asylum to two of my in-laws, two persons from my in-laws. They were Harabis, combatants, came from abode of war, Makkah, and I gave them protection, asylum. In those days, asylum could be given by individuals. I gave them asylum and security. But my brother, Sayyidina Ali, she says, my brother, Sayyidina Ali, wants to kill them. He says, they are Harabis. So yet my brother Ali wishes to kill them. So what is the hukum, Ya Rasulullah? What is your command? Holy Prophet ﷺ said, he responded, he said, Ali has no authority to do so. For we have given security to whom you have, and we have given the asylum to whoever you have. In this world, he has no authority to do so. Any lady, any person, any slave, any single person who grants asylum or security to any person who was a combatant or who belonged to abode of war, and he came to your land and you gave him protection, we will honor protection given by a single individual. Can you just imagine, you are killing the people, just taking the Sharia in your own hands without any evidence, without any authority. This much importance has been given to the life of mankind, that the people who belong to abode of war, and they were originally combatants, but they came to you. Now it's up to you whether keep them alive or kill them. Since they have been given security, Holy Prophet said, nobody can touch him. And Holy Prophet, look at Holy Prophet's conduct. The Surah Tawbah was revealed after the breach of Treaty of Hudaybiyah. And because of that reason, Holy Prophet marched towards Makkah and victory of Makkah took place. So implementation of the verse of sword has already been revealed. Ayatul Sayf, wrongly, this is a wrong title given to the Quranic verse by the critics. But I'm just trying to explain. That verse of Qital had already been revealed in Surah At-Tawbah. And this is the victory of Makkah took place after Surah Tawbah was revealed. And Holy Prophet, it means if all peace-making efforts and peace treaties and all verses and commandments enters the house of Abu Sufyan is safe. Whoever closes their door is safe. Whoever enters the sacred mosque of Makkah is safe. And whoever throws his arms is safe. So he announced a general amnesty of the citizens of Makkah. Not a single person among the citizens of Makkah, those who were non-combatants, was killed. So this was implementation of Holy Prophet after revelation of Surah At-Tawbah and verse of sword. So these people know the Quran better than Holy Prophet knew. Imam Malik says, if a non-Muslim, in Maliki fiqh, Sharh-ul-Mudawwana, if a non-Muslim refugee deposits some wealth with us, a non-Muslim person who came from Darul Harb, abode of war, he deposited his wealth or anything with us, and returns to his native land, to his abode of war, and dies there. So according to Islamic fiqh, his wealth must be returned to his heirs. Likewise, if he is killed during war with the Muslims, we will send back any entrusted wealth of his. Even after that, he gave his property to you, entrusted with you, went back to his own land, and his land is abode of war, and he was engaged in war, and he died in a battlefield as a Harabi, as a combatant. Even then his property will remain as a trust, and you are bound to send it back to his heirs. This is the moral level of Islamic teachings. How much respect Islam gives to the rights regarding the protection of life or protection of wealth and honor and everything. Now Imam Shafi'i, Al-Fiqh al-Shafi'iyya, Imam Shafi'i says in his book Kitabul he says, when an adult Muslim, free or slave, combatant or non-combatant, guarantees the protection of a non-Muslim who was a combatant, who belonged to abode of war, if any Muslim gives him the protection, it is legally valid and it would be upheld in all conditions. So I am explaining the position of people living in these lands. How are they allowed to kill the citizens of the Western countries, of their own land? On which principle? On what base? On what evidence? Then Imam Shafi'i further says, he says that the guarantee of protective security granted by a Muslim male and female is valid for a non-Muslim who is a rebel or even who is a combatant. So if a person gives a guarantee of protection to a combatant, that would be valid and lawful. What about the non-combatant, peaceful civilian and citizen living in your country who are not fighting with you? Why their security of life is in your hands? Why you are committing these kind of crimes on attacking them? Then again, Imam Abu Yahya Zakaria al-Ansari, again, he writes in Asn al-Matalib, a book on Fiqh Shafi'i, he says that it is strictly prohibited to kill a woman, even in state of war. And you are killing the people in your own country without war going on between you. They are civilian people, they are non-combatants, living their own life, and you are killing them. And we are talking of those people who are combatants, and during the state of war, it is strictly prohibited to kill a woman, an intersex, an infant, an insane person from amongst the disbelievers, based on the prohibition of killing women and children in the report of two rigorously authentic collections of Bukhari and Muslim. The insane has been annexed in legal consideration to the child, and an intersex with women due to possibility of being a woman, and the sole purpose of their prohibition of being killed is that they are all non-combatants. So all these statements which I am quoting, every imam and every jurist has based his ruling on this basic principle, since they are non-combatants. Now, maybe they were before this time, Since they are non-combatants, so nobody can kill them. And the reason behind prohibition of killing the women and children and so many categories, they say the reason behind it, they are non-combatants. And if any one of them is combatant, fighting against you, then this prohibition would be raised, suspended. In the same way, the same rulings have been given by the Shafi'is, jurists. And again, in fiqh of Imam Shafi'i, it is stated, az-zimma. Zimma means al-ahdu wal-amanu wal-hurma wal-haq. They say the word zimma, used for non-Muslim, it is defined as protective covenant. And number two, it is defined as just security. And it is defined as just sanctity of life. And it is defined as protection of all basic rights. All these things come under the title of zimma. It means even a non-Muslim who is non-combatant, he comes under protective covenant, he comes under the principle of the security of life, comes under the principle of sanctity of life, comes under the principle of protection of human basic rights. So because of all these dalail, basic evidences, their life, their property, everything is safe and secure. And you can't neither infringe these rights, neither in your lands, nor in their land, even if that is abode of war. Since they are non-combatants, so they possess respect of all these rights and protection of all these rights. Again, quoting some statements from Hanbali fiqh al-Hanbali, al-Hanabila. Imam Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi, he quotes that Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu gave Ajaza aman al-abdi li ahli al-hisn. Very important, interesting thing. Sayyidina Umar once allowed a slave to give a guarantee of security to a people held up in a fortress. Many people who were in a fortress, just one slave, he provided them security. And Sayyidina Umar said, now we are to uphold this security. And Quran says, وَإِنْ أَحَدٌ مِّنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ اسْتَجَارَكَ فَأَجِرْهُ. And the Aimma and Fuqaha has discussed a very interesting thing here. The Sifatul Aman, the description of guarantee of security. And they have said there can be two modes, one express, one implied. Express are, for example, somebody can use these kind of wordings. I have given you sanctuary. And he was a combatant, a person combatant. If somebody Muslim said, I give you sanctuary, his life would be protected. But with this one word. Or he says, I have given you security, his life is protected. Because Almighty God has said, and if any of the idolaters, non-combatants, seek asylum with you, provide them with protection. This is in Surah Tawbah, the verse of which is known as verse of Saif, verse of sword. This Surah Tawbah, verse number 6. This is giving security and asylum. And they say the second way is impliedly. For example, a guarantee of security is conveyed with other phrases as well. If some Muslim or somebody says, fear not, or somebody says, do not worry in a battlefield, do not be scared. Somebody says, you have nothing to fear. Somebody says, everything will be all right. All these words, any of these words is used. What the Prophet said, see, the Umar radiyallahu ta'ala is quoting, when you say to a people, everything is all right, or do not worry, it means now his life is secure. You can't attack on him. because Allah knows all languages. This is Islam. But you are saying, don't worry. No, you can't change your intention. Oh, I didn't mean this. When you said everything is all right. No, Holy Prophet says, when you said everything is will be all right, now he is protected. He will get protection of life. Just he signals. And then they quote, if a non-Muslim leaves their fortress, he was fighting, combat was going on. A fight was going on during wartime. Some Muslim fighter, combatant. Very interesting thing. They quote, the jurists say that if a Muslim signals to them in a manner that they understand to be a guarantee of security, he will get protection of life. Just he signals. And then they quote, if a non-Muslim leaves their fortress, he was fighting, combat was going on. A fight was going on during wartime. Some Muslim fighter, combatant, he, as a result of this, if a non-Muslim leaves their fortress, as a result of this signal, it is not permitted to kill them. And they should be escorted back to their area of safety. Sayyidina Umar said, by Allah, Sayyidina Umar, Farooq Azam radiallahu, where one of you points towards the sky, you are fighting with the non-Muslims, a combat is going on. And you as the soldier or the commander, any person, you don't utter a single word. You just point towards the sky. If any one of you points towards the sky and signal to an idol worshipper, the combatant, and he feeling that guarantee of security has been given to me just by pointing your finger towards the sky, he came down, and then you killed him. Sayyidina Umar said, I would have killed you in retaliation. Because when you pointed towards sky, the combatant, the fighter, the combatant non-Muslim, he thought, but through this signal, you are sending a message that I will grant you security. And then you killed him. Although you didn't mean it. You didn't mean it, that I am giving you security. But he understood like this. By pointing towards sky, he thought, but you are giving me security. He said, now killing is haram. And if you kill him, I will kill you as retaliation. And this was narrated by Saeed. And this is the Islam position regarding the security of human life. During combat, during a wartime, in battlefield, what to talk of the peaceful countries and cities for killing the civilian population who are non-combatants. They have nothing to do with your war and fight. They are busy in their own business. All of a sudden you kill them through your terroristic act. Who would be responsible for that, taking these human lives? In the same way, Allama ibn Taymiyyah, he also says in his Al-Fatawa, he says, جاءت السنة بأن كل ما فهم الكافر أنه أمان كان أمان لألا يكون مخدوعا وإن لم يقصد خدعه. Ibn Taymiyyah says that Sunnah reports that everything a non-Muslim understands anything which a non-Muslim understands to imply a guarantee of security is deemed exactly that he is protected. So the people living in different countries, Muslims and non-Muslims, they understand. All people, they understand, since we are not combatants, we are not fighting with each other, we are peaceful civilian population. So international law is, and the law of Islam and the law of their country and the law of United Nations and the law running the whole world is that since we are non-combatants, so we are not going to be killed. This is much more than a signal of pointing your finger towards sky. Everybody understands, because I am a non-combatant, so I am not going to be killed. I have not taken life on anyone, so my life is not to be taken as a revenge. Everybody understands. This is a commonly known and understood phenomena and law. Law of human nature, law of every country, law of international community, law of Islam, law of other religions. Everybody knows that I am a non-combatant, so my life is not to be taken off. So I am not to be killed. So this is understood phenomena, and all of a sudden you attack on the civilian population and kill them. What kind of jihad it is? This is just a criminal act against the Quranic injunctions, against the Sunnah of Holy Prophet, against the Islamic teachings and all the commandments mentioned in the books of Islamic jurisprudence in all mazahib and in all schools. So that's why Ibn Taymiyyah says that the Sunnah reports everything a non-Muslim understands. Do all these people living in Western countries, because they are do they not understand that we have not committed any crime personally, so we are not to be killed? Protection of life is our fundamental right. Is not this thing declared by every constitution? Is not this principle declared by every law? So Allama Ibn Taymiyyah says anything which a non-Muslim understands by implication, impliedly understand, is a guarantee of security. And it would be deemed exactly that. And that so that he is not in any way deceived. So these people should not be deceived. And this is not a character of a Muslim to commit a betrayal or treachery or deception. Now the last point which I would like to explain is a few verses of Quran which are known to be the verse of qital or the verse of sword, and the wrong conception, misconception that these verses have repealed all injunctions of peace and security and reconciliation. This is the last point which I want to explain. I want to finish this today so that tomorrow's session I will take some spiritual subject for your tarbiyah. Some of the Muslims, they misinterpret the word sword or the verse of sword, and they use it to justify their militancy and their violence and their mass killing. Kill them wherever you find them, they use these kind of words from the ayah. Kill them wherever you find them, or the word like that, kill all of them. So all these kind of verses or words are misinterpreted, and they are taken as a basis of their violent activities, and that's why they give their activities the name of jihad. And the same wrong interpretation has been given by non-Muslim critics, and they use these kind of verses in order to establish this wrong concept that Islam is a violent religion, or there is a place for violence in Islam. And some people say, and they write in their articles and their books, for example, they write about me. I have addressed in my fatwa and other books all statements and injunctions which deal with peace and security, but I have not addressed these verses of qital. I have not given the answer to these verses of qital. What do we say about? And some people say, still there is a place of violence and militancy because of these verses. Some people say that there were injunctions of peace and reconciliation and security, but when Surah Tawbah, along with the verses of qital, were revealed, then all prior injunctions were repealed. They were cancelled. And now the latest position is kill them. All these concepts or discussions, everything are baseless, totally wrong, because of lack of understanding of Quran. They have not gone through the tafasir. They just read Holy Quran and they don't know at what time this verse was revealed, what was the background of the revelation of these verses. The Quran is with, all verses are revealed with asbabun nuzul. And keep in your mind that the Holy Quran which we recite and which we have in our hands was not revealed in this order. The order of Quran, order of revelation was different than order of compilation. The verses of Holy Quran used to be revealed on Holy Prophet ﷺ according to their necessity, according to different incidents and events which were taking place, with developments were taking place, different situations were being addressed. The people used to ask some queries and questions from Holy Prophet ﷺ. Different situation in battlefields, in their homes, houses, social life, military life, political life, economic life, different situations were being arising. It was a continuous collective life of Holy Prophet and Islamic society. And wherever any situation arose, the verses used to be revealed. And the Quran was being answering every situation. Quran was addressing every situation. So the order of the revelation of the verses of Quran was totally different. The first verse revealed on Holy Prophet was Iqra bismi rabbikal ladhi khalaq, khalaqal insana min alaq. But in the present form, you see the first verse is Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. This is the first surah. In the same way, Qul a'udhu bi Rabbin Nas was not the last surah revealed on Holy Prophet. So this is a different subject. I just explained you briefly and you got it. It was compiled by divine guidance. Holy Prophet ﷺ used to give instructions afterwards. Write these verses here, and before this verse, write down this verse, and after this, write down this verse. This was a separate divine guidance which was provided to Holy Prophet ﷺ through Jibreel Amin. As Jibreel Amin was bringing the verses from Almighty God, in the same way Sayyidina Jibreel, he was bringing this guidance for how these verses are to be placed in a new order. So whenever we read the verses, we need to understand when this verse was revealed, what was its background. This needs a deep understanding, exegetical understanding, and historical understanding of the Quranic revelation. So, you have to keep in your mind all verses which are mentioned by the critics of Islam or which are misused by the terrorist or violent extremist. They both have the same case. They misuse those verses to justify their violent acts, and the critics misuse those verses to give a bad name to Islam and to declare Islam as a violent religion. Case is the same, but angles are different. But they are in fact giving this tongue, these words to the critics of Islam by justifying their violent acts through these verses. This is wrong interpretation. They are doing the same job which the enemies of Islam are doing. So all those verses in Surah Tawbah, particularly the verse known as verse of sword, فَقْتُلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَيْثُ وَجَدْتُمُوهُمْ, or the verse, this is verse number 5 of Surah Tawbah. Verse number 12, فَقَاتِلُوا أَئِمَّةَ الْكُفْرِ. Verse number 36, وَقَاتِلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ كَافَّةً. Up to verse number 123, قَاتِلُوا الَّذِينَ يَلُونَكُم مِّنَ الْكُفَّارِ. And Surah Baqarah 190 and all these, وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا. Let me take first of all the verse of Surah Baqarah 190. وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُعْتَدِينَ. This verse deals with the defensive warfare. I will keep on explaining you very briefly. This verse deals with defensive warfare. There is no aggression or violence in it. And Quran says, and fight in defense, in bracket, in the cause of Allah against those who have imposed war on you. These are the words. وَقَاتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ. Fight against those who have already imposed war on you. What does it mean? Is it not categorically defensive warfare? You are being commanded to fight those people, those who have already imposed a war on you. So you are allowed, or you are being commanded to fight in your defense. And then it is stated, yes, but do not exceed limits. وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا. And do not exceed limits. So limitations are being fixed, which we have already discussed, that certain people are not to be killed even in warfare. Allah does not like those who exceed limits. This verse of Surah Al-Baqarah even, this was revealed after the Pact of Hudaybiyah, when it was breached by the Meccans. Only then this verse of Qital was revealed, when the Meccans had already restored the state of war. Because through, I will quote you the Pact of Hudaybiyah. Just keep in your mind. So this verse was revealed after the Meccans breached the Pact of Hudaybiyah, Treaty of Hudaybiyah, and that a treaty of peace. They breached it and they reinstated and they restored the state of war. And the Muslims and Medinans, because of the treaty of peace, which was to last for 10 years, they were under a responsibility not to take up the arms, because there was a treaty of peace for 10 years. Now these verses were revealed, but since they have breached the treaty and the Meccans have restored the state of war, so now there is no problem for you to fight in defense. Again, the second verse of Surah An-Nisa, these are the Ayatul Qital, number 91. Again in this verse, Quran says that فَإِلَّمْ يَأْتَزِلُوكُمْ وَيَلْقُوا إِلَيْكُمُ السَّلَامَ وَيَكُفُّوا أَيْدِيَكُمْ فَخُذُوهُمْ وَاقْتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ ثَقِفْتُمُوهُمْ. This is the verse normally which is quoted everywhere. Which is quoted, they say that wherever, kill them wherever you find them. Only this part of the verse is taken out of context. The terrorists also do the same, and the critics also do the same. They take a few words from the verse out of context. The whole verse is سَتَجِدُونَ آخَرِينَ يُرِيدُونَ أَن يَأْمَنُوكُمْ. But then coming to the relevant part, فَإِلَّمْ يَأْتَزِلُوكُمْ. So if they do not give up fighting against you, we have to see when and why these words of the verse were revealed. This is not the case that kill them wherever you find them, kill everybody, every kafir, every combatant and non-combatant. No, Quran has never ordained and commanded this thing. We have to understand the Quran. In Quran's own words says, فَإِلَّمْ يَأْتَزِلُوكُمْ. So if they do not give up fighting against you. So in this verse, only those people are being addressed that if these combatants, they do not stop fighting against you and they do not cease fire, they do not come to cease fire, it means the war was already imposed on you. They had already restored the state of war and they had already killed your people. I will tell you later. Let me explain first and then it will be easy to you to understand. In war, in Hudaybiyah, 6th of Hijrah, a treaty of peace was written down and signed by both parties, the Meccans and Medinans, and Holy Prophet signed it, and the Meccans. In that treaty of Hudaybiyah, it was written there would be enforcement of peace for 10 years. Both sides will live in peace and security. This was a part of Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Both sides will live in peace and security. None of them will take arm against each other. And then it was declared the other tribes are allowed to adopt alliance with any of these two parties. So Khuza'a, a tribe, stood up and announced that we choose to become ally of Medina. Khuza'a. They became allies of Medina, of Holy Prophet ﷺ. And there was another tribe, Banu Bakr. They stood up and announced that we become ally of Meccans. And this was written in Treaty of Hudaybiyah that there would be not fighting with each other and not supporting against each other allies. Yani Medina and its Medinans allies would be protected from any kind of war. And Makkah and their allies in the same way would be protected by any kind of war. So Medina would not be allowed to fight neither against Meccans nor against their allies. And it was written that Meccans would be allowed to fight neither against Medina nor their allies. So Khuza'a became the allies of Medina and Banu Bakr became allies of Mecca. After 1 year of this treaty, rather less than 1 year of this treaty, there was a fight between Banu Bakr and Khuza'a. It took place in Mecca. They both belonged to Mecca, greater Mecca, metropolitan Mecca, both tribes. A fight started between both tribes, and Quraysh of Mecca, who were bound by this treaty of peace, they provided their own allies, Banu Bakr, all arms, and they participated the fight, and they killed 22 people from Khuza'a tribe, the Meccans, along with Banu Bakr. They killed them, they tortured them, they killed them, they made them captives, and they took them to Mecca and arrested them in a house. And they were women and weak people and children and weak. And they were allies of Medina. And it was expressly and categorically written in the treaty that the Meccans are not allowed to fight the Medinans and their allies. And the Medinans are not allowed to fight the Meccans or their allies. So the Meccans breached the treaty and they attacked at night time, they attacked on Khuza'a tribe, killed their people, tortured them, chained them, and took them to Mecca and arrested them and put them like a jail in a house of one of the Quraysh of Mecca. So all main leaders, those people, Aimmatul Kufr, the leaders of the Kufr. It does not mean every single leader of Kufr. No, there were 7, 8 leaders of Quraysh, 7 or 8 persons of Quraysh who were heading and monitoring and leading all this activity and brutality. Quran said those people are Aimmatul Kufr, 7, 8 people. Those who killed the people of Khuza'ah and made them captives. This was the background. So Surah Tawbah was revealed. After around 1 year after the pact of Hudaybiyah took place, and Surah Tawbah said, Bara'atum min Allah wa Rasul. Then I will mention, since I have mentioned this, so let me complete this part, it would be helpful for you. So this was the Hudna, the ceasefire and treaty of Hudaybiyah for 10 years. Imam Shafi, whatever I have told, every single historian has written this thing. There is no difference of opinion and there is no dispute on this point. Imam Shafi said, the treaty of Hudaybiyah between him, the messenger of Allah, and the people of Makkah was for 10 years. And it was written, and all historians say, that they will observe the truce and treaty of peace, a no war pact for 10 years, and both sides and their allies will remain in peace and security during this period. This was the wordings of treaty of Hudaybiyah. Then Ibn Hisham says, Imam Ibn Ishaq says, Imam Behki says, Imam Shafi'i says, Imam Tabari says, Imam Wahidi says, every historian and Mufassir and Imam, indiscriminately, without any dispute or difference of opinion, has quoted the same thing. What happened? They said, فَلَمَّا تَزَاهَرَتْ بَنُو بَكْرٍ وَقُرَيْشٍ عَلَى خُزَاعَةٍ وَأَصَابُوا مِنْهُمْ مَا أَصَابُوا وَنَاقَضُوا مَا كَانَ بَيْنَهُمْ وَبَيْنَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ مِنَ الْعَهْدِ وَالْمِيثَاقِ بِمَسْتَحَلُّوا مِنْ خُزَاعَةٍ وَكَانُوا فِي عَقْدِهِ وَعَهْدِهِ. Banu Bakr and the Quraysh of Makkah, they jointly attacked Khuza'ah, the allies of the Messenger of Allah, and inflicted on them the sufferings and killings, breaching the treaty of peace which was between them and which was to last for 10 years. They breached it. Then who are the people? The Quran uses the word here, Qatilul Aimmatul Kufr. This is verse At-Tawbah, verse number 12. This is quoted. Kill all leaders of Kufr. They don't know anything about anything. These are just a title which Quran has given to 7, 8 people who were responsible for this torture and treachery and killing and brutality. It does not mean every leader of Kufr. And all these verses are just specific. Their application is not general. Their application is not general. These are specific with the historic background. This Aimmatul Kufr, verse number 12, Surah Tawbah. Who are those Aimmatul Kufr? Ibn Sa'd writes in At-Tabaqatul Kubra, one was Safwan bin Umayyah, the second was Huwaytab bin Abdul Uzza, third was Mikraz bin Hafs. These were the people who killed around 20 people of Khuza'ah, including the ladies and children, and we can see. And the next was Ikrimah bin Abi Jahl, and another was Suhail bin Amr, and some other Quraysh leaders. Quran mentioned these particular individuals as Aimmatul Kufr. So this verse of Aimmatul Kufr, kill these chieftains and kill these leaders of Kufr, does not mean any leader in the whole world in any time belonging to Kufr. Means only these 5-10 people. They were given the name. So and they killed them. And then what happened? All Aimma and historians write that these victims of aggression and brutality were common people, including women, children, indigent sections. All of these, they were attacked. And extreme torture and killing took place. And they took rest of the people from whole of the tribe. They made them captives and took them to the house of Budayl bin Warqa. They took them to the house of Budayl bin Warqa, one of the, again, chief Aymatul Kufr, one of the leader of Quraysh, Budayl bin Warqa at Makkah, and put them as captives in his house. And after this whole killing took place, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah was breached, totally breached. State of war was restored. Articles of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah were totally breached. So 40 people from belonging to this Qabila, this tribe, crying and shouting and weak, they arrived Medina. To Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Ibn Hisham says, and they arrived there and they told him whole story, what happened with them. And Ibn Sa'd says that Holy Prophet heard the whole story, and then he said, this is what Ibn Hisham has quoted, Imam Bayhaqi has quoted, Imam Tabari has quoted, Ibn Sa'd has quoted. What hell? Holy Prophet ﷺ was too much aggrieved. He was saddened. He said, I know. Even the Meccans said that we have breached the Treaty of Peace of Hudaybiyah. Even the Meccans were saying to one another, we have broken it, we have breached it. And the state of war has been restored. They knew whatever they have done. There was no dispute on this action. But Holy Prophet ﷺ, when he heard everything, a cloud came on his head. When he was hearing all this very sad event, the cloud came, and Holy Prophet said to Amr bin Salim from Khuza'ah, help of Almighty Allah has been granted to you. Then he saw a cloud in the sky and said, this cloud has come to the oppressed people of Banu Khuza'ah for the help of oppressed people, those who have been tortured. Then Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam stood up and said, Wallah, oh by God, I would never be helped if I don't help the oppressed people now. The Meccans have breached their treaty, and they have killed the children and women and the oppressed and made them captive. If I don't stand up for your help now, Allah will stop helping me. At that time, this Surah At-Tawbah was revealed. The ayah of sword, the verse of sword, this surah. And all this surah, full surah was repealed at a single time. This is very important thing. So no need to check other aspects, no need to discuss the different verses. The whole of surah was revealed of surah. This is the Wahid surah which was revealed, the whole of it at a single time. Hazrat Bara bin Azib, the companion, says, it is in Sahih Bukhari, Kitabul Maghazi, Qala akhiru suratin nazalat kamilatan bara'ah. The last surah of Quran which was revealed, the whole surah at single time, that is Surah Bara'ah, the Tawbah. And this is reported in Sahih Bukhari, this is reported in Musnad Ahmad bin Hanbal. And this is which is reported by Imam Tabari, by Imam Baghawi, by Imam Qurtubi, by Imam Salabi. And this whole Surah At-Tawbah, including all these verses of Qital, were revealed after the breach of Treaty of Hudaybiyah and after the restoration of the state of war by the Meccans. And all these verses were revealed in this context. Since they have reinstated, they have restored the war, state of war, and they have killed and murdered and assassinated your allies and made them captive captives, and they, the weak people, are still captive in their houses, and they are crying for help. So for this humanitarian basis, Holy Prophet ﷺ was bound by that treaty and by humanitarian principles to help them. This surah was revealed at that time, and in every verse, whatever is mentioned, kill them wherever you find them. It means kill those people who killed Banu Khaza'a. Not every non-Muslim, not every mushrik. Wherever you find these words, فَقْتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ وَجَدْتُمُوهُمْ فَقْتُلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَيْثُ وَجَدْتُمُوهُمْ. The verse number 5, Ayatul Saif. It doesn't mean kill everybody. Means, oh my Prophet, go there, save them, help them, take them out of their captivity, and if they fight with you, kill them wherever you find those who have already killed your people. So this was a war of, again, defense for humanitarian cause, those who were already been killed, to help them. So فَقَاتِلُوا أَئِمَّةُ الْكُفْرِ, verse number 12, revealed in this context. وَقَاتِلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ كَافَّةً. When you kill them, all of them, it means all of those who are responsible for this brutality, not every single soul. Kaffa means those people, only those kaffa, those who killed the people of Banu Khuza'a, those who committed the treaty and breach of the treaty of peace, those who have imposed the war on your allies. Kaffa means just those people. They are responsible. Again, as they kill you, فَخُذُوهُمْ وَاقْتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ ثَقِفْتُمُوهُم, Surah An-Nisa 91. This verse was also revealed after the breach of Treaty of Hudaybiyah. All these verses are related to the same context. None of these verses was revealed in other than this particular context. So these verses never repealed the injunctions of reconciliation, never repealed and cancelled the injunctions of peace and security. It just repealed one treaty of Hudaybiyah and restored the state of war, which was restored by the Meccans. And this was for humanitarian grounds. Go and help them. And if they fight you, you also kill them and fight them. And this humanitarian law is adopted by UNO. Many countries, according to the UNO resolution, they go on humanitarian basis and they kill the people. They fight there. They are engaged in war on terror. What we are doing? When you are fighting the war on terror, why you go and bomb the people? Why are you bombing ISIS? Why were you bombing Taliban? Why were you bombing Al-Qaeda? For humanitarian basis. You are fighting against the terrorists. You are fighting against the criminals. You are fighting in order to eliminate the brutality for protection of human rights. The same law was enforced by Surah At-Tawbah, Surah Bara'ah, and her Holy Prophet in that case. And in Surah Tawbah, verse number 12, it is categorically stated, وَإِن نَكَسُوا أَيْمَانَهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ عَهْدِهِمْ. They have broken, they have breached their iman, their pledges. They have breached their pledges. فَقَاتِلُوا أَئِمَّةَ الْكُفْرِ إِنَّهُمْ لَا أَيْمَانَ لَهُمْ. They have no pledge. Go and fight them. These are the words of Quran too. And the word Surah number 36, وَقَاتِلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ كَافَّةً كَمَا يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ كَافَّةً. We take the words out of the context. And that's why the people are misguided. The word of Quran in Surah Tawbah is قَاتِلُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ كَافَّةً كَمَا يُقَاتِلُونَكُمْ كَافَّةً وَأَعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. And fight against all the combatants. What does it mean, kaffa? Not all the whole of the world of non-Muslims. No. Fight against all the combatants, all the killers who have committed this treachery and breach and brutality and violence in retaliation. Fight against them in retaliation. And then Quran says, Kama yuqatilunakum kaffa, the same way as they all allied have imposed war upon all of you. In the same way as they imposed war on you, as they killed your people. The Quran is already mentioning, in the same way as they killed your people. It means this is in retaliation. This is in response. Don't fight separately. Kaf. Waqatilul mushrikina kaffa. It means this decision should be taken by the state. Kaffa means the state. There should be a collective decision. This is not permissible that people should stand up on their own, make their groups and their own private armies, and they should start taking revenge. No. Don't do these acts separately. Take this revenge unitedly, collectively, and this decision is only possible at the state level, which Holy Prophet ﷺ did it as the state. And the companions were not allowed on their own to do that. So they say, Imam Tabari says, this is the meaning of kaffa. So, in order to understand the real meanings of Quran, so and the last thing, if we think that this was all these verses of Surah At-Tawbah or verses of Quran which were revealed in Surah At-Tawbah, if we think they have repealed the verses of peace and security, so that's wrong. That is wrong. Because Holy Prophet ﷺ, after the revelation of these verses, he concluded many peace treaties with non-Muslim tribes. If the peace treaties and reconciliatory efforts were repealed and cancelled by the revelation of these verses, then Holy Prophet ﷺ would not have done these treaties. What do you think? What do these people think? That did Holy Prophet did not understand the meanings and message of the Quranic verses or ayatul sayf? There were more than 12 peace treaties which were conducted by Holy Prophet ﷺ after revelation of Surah At-Tawbah and the verses regarding the Qital and ayatul sayf. After that, what do you think? Was Holy Prophet, Ma'azallah, Astaghfirullah, negating the commandments of God? Or was he not understanding the message of Allah? But what? No. The best interpreter of Quranic commandment was Holy Prophet. So we can't understand Quran without looking into the conduct and sunnah of Holy Prophet ﷺ. The sunnah of Holy Prophet is the best interpretation and explanation of Quran. So when these verses were revealed, ayatul sayf, and all verses of Surah Tawbah, the whole of Surah Tawbah. So no need to read any verse separately. Whole of Surah Tawbah, Holy Prophet's companion Hazrat Bara says, was revealed once at one time. And that was in connection of the breach of Hudaybiyah. So after this breach took place and Fatah Makkah took place, there were since more than 12 treaties of peace which Holy Prophet ﷺ concluded with the non-Muslims. So this was the actual implementation of Quranic commandment by Holy Prophet ﷺ.
So peace treaty, Holy Prophet concluded a peace treaty with the people of Taif and people of Thaqif in year 8 and year 9, after revelation of Surah Tawbah, after revelation of verses of Qital and the verse of sword. Holy Prophet ﷺ concluded a peace treaty with the Christians of Najran. You have heard the name, peace treaty with Christians of Najran, but you never know that which year was this. Again, year 8, Hijrah. It was after the revelation of Surah Tawbah and the verse of sword. So this was the meanings understood by Holy Prophet and the meanings enforced and implemented by Holy Prophet ﷺ through his conduct. So we are bound to understand and accept the meanings of Quran in the light of the conduct of Holy Prophet ﷺ. The Quran and the conduct of Holy Prophet cannot be contradictory to each other. Peace treaty with Jews of Taimah, was also concluded in year 9 after Surah Tawbah and these verses of Qital. Again, peace treaties with peoples of Banu Jamba was conducted by Holy Prophet in year 9 of Hijrah after Surah Tawbah. A peace treaty was concluded by Holy Prophet with the people of Haina. They were Jews. In the same way, one peace treaty with people of Makna, Holy Prophet conducted, with people of Aila, with people of Jarba, with people of Azru. All these peace treaties were concluded by Holy Prophet ﷺ in year 9 of Hijrah, after Surah Tawbah. And again, a peace treaty with the Jews of south and east of Arabia, Bahrain and Oman. The Jews living there, peace treaties was concluded with those people again in year 9 of Hijrah. So if the peace treaties were cancelled and repealed through Surah Tawbah and Ayatul Sayf or these verses of Qital, then why did Holy Prophet concluded all these peace treaties after revelation of this surah? It means that this Surah Tawbah and these verses never repealed and never cancelled a single commandment of Quran related to establishment of peace or related to establishment of reconciliation with other communities. They were never cancelled. Nothing was nasikh and mansukh. All those verses were revealed in different context, and this Surah Tawbah was revealed in totally different context, and that was the breach of the peace treaty of Hudaybiyah by the Meccans and killing of Khuza'a, and this was humanitarian. All these verses were revealed in humanitarian context. This was the biggest, you can say, argument given by the terrorists in their narrative, and biggest argument given by the critics of Islam who want to establish that Islam, ma'azallah, is a religion of violence. So now I think in these 2 sessions, whatever was possible, I have discussed and given you all evidences, references, statements, authorities regarding every single important aspect which is being propagated as a narrative of the terroristic narrative. Now you got the counter narrative. I hope you will become the messengers and propagators and torch bearers of true teachings of Islam and Holy Prophet. Okay. Now, how do you feel? Do you feel apologetic or very strong? Do you feel still weak, very clear, very confident, very vocal? Mashallah, mashallah.
We want to thank Shaykh-ul-Islam from the bottom of our hearts for such a beautiful, knowledge-packed and inspirational lecture, clarifying some really basic and important misunderstandings, inshallah. I think this is a landmark subject and a lecture that I think really we need to promote everywhere to counter the narrative of the extremists. MashaAllah, I think this is the first time I think you will agree that this topic has been treated in this way, MashaAllah. And in this sort of lecture and many other lectures, but there are also many books of Shaykh-ul-Islam. The Minhaj publications has a whole stall at the back, and I would like every single one of you to go there and have a look when you have time at all the books Shaykh-ul-Islam has written as part of the peace, the curriculum on peace and counter-terrorism. There are books, for example, on peace for humanity, Islam on serving humanity. Here are the books on the peace, Islamic curriculum on peace and counter-terrorism, for example. And these are on offer, actually, as you can see. It's a really good opportunity to find them. So, we want to welcome our special guest, Kamran Shahid. Can I have your attention? This is Kamran Shahid, who is a renowned journalist and anchor for Dunya TV. Many of you will, or most of you will have seen him presenting as an anchor. And inshallah, this will be a special session which I will be introducing in a minute, inshallah. So here are some of the books.